So now we are at, listen, Shariputra, all phenomena bear the mark of emptiness. Their true nature is the nature of no birth, no death, no being, no non-being, no defilement, no purity, no increasing, no decreasing. And we did the first part of this stanza just before all the birthdays started. And today we're at the instruction of no defilement, no purity. And this is a really interesting aspect to contemplate, and it has many layers, many levels. And I'm just gonna say at the beginning, the goal is to abide in the spacious, open awareness inseparable from compassion. So notice how often you move from that to but, no, but. So we could say the attitude that we bring to today's contemplation is churning the milk of the Holy Dharma, and over time, the pure butter arising. Probably, let's say the butter arising. Already I'm using the word pure. So what we're looking at is the aspect of our mind that moves so quickly into pure and impure, into a kind of judgmentalism. And, from my side, I think I was born that way. So it is certainly how the mind functions. One aspect, one whole skanda, is this quality of mind that makes distinctions. And one kind of distinction that we continuously make is pure and impure. But when we examine distinctions, pure and impure is a kind of division like high and low and near and far. And if we look at a simpler distinction, we can pretty easily see that high and low are relative. You can't have high unless you have low. And if you take the high away, then the low becomes the high. So there's the interdependence, and that we're applying these distinctions on things, objects, thoughts, aspects of our environment that we call appearances, that they themselves have no inherent existence. We've been looking at outer phenomena, inner phenomena, seeing that we can't find an independent, solid existence anywhere, any aspect that we look at. So how can we then layer a distinction of pure and impure on that impermanent, interconnected, interdependent, ever-changing object of awareness? So despite that, we go into not only pure and impure, but we go really quickly into right and wrong. So one example of pure and impure might be if we see smog in the sky. And we might say, oh, that's horrible, that's pollution, that's impure air. It is true that the smog particles can cause harm, but that's a different framework. We allow our minds to creatively go into pure and impure, and how pure and impure, as a judgment. And when we try and find the actual inherently existing smog in the sky, it's not findable. First of all, it's impermanent, so it appears and disappears. Second of all, if we were to find a particle, the particle would always have parts, and we'd keep looking and not finding the absolutely existing part. and be unable to find that. So you can't layer pure and impure on something that isn't actually there to begin with. So we can look at it from that perspective. Similarly, when we see a clear blue sky, in contrast, we would say, oh, that is pure sky. That's a good sky. And if we were to examine that scientifically, it's just a phenomena of short and long light waves. So we'd look for the pureness there and not be able to find it. So that is one whole perspective, and that analysis is very, very helpful as we start to examine our habits of making incessant judgments. Just seeing everything and making a distinction that this is good or bad. This is a good piece of art. This is, a bad piece of art. This is a good meal. This is a bad meal. That quality of judging almost never stops. And we live in a culture where it's so encouraged and so all pervasive that there's an encouragement to keep that kind of mind going. So when we examine that, we start to see that actually what we're experiencing is that skandha of mind that is continuously at work or at play, and it is the opposite of the abiding in the still luminous clarity that is inseparable from compassion. So we have to ask ourselves, is this mental habit of creating continuous judging mind helping us towards our goal or not helping us towards our goal? And this is where, the but starts to arise, particularly when we look at all of the social situations that are arising. And we say to ourselves, but this is clearly wrong. This is clearly a wrong action, an impure action. This is a wrong thought, an impure thought. And this is definitely good. And this is definitely bad. And again, we're setting up a not helpful framework. So when we look at all of the disturbing things in the world, all the different isms, we see behaviors that are harmful and hurtful. But then in our minds, we start a continuous flow of thoughts about why that is wrong, why that is impure, and what pure is. And we want everyone to hold the same perspective that we hold. We want everyone to absolutely agree and confirm, and we just create more thoughts on top of more thoughts on top of more thoughts. Not only are we creating all of these thoughts, but we're moving away from the open, spacious mind to a narrow, judgmental mind, moving into righteousness. So we can hold the analysis of the Heart Sutra as a way of defusing that mental habit of making distinctions and immediately moving the distinctions from this is my behavior that's causing harm, and if I observe my behavior, I can be more gentle in the world and not cause harm, to they're causing harm, they're causing harm, they're causing harm, they're causing harm, and I'm not. I'm pure, you're impure. It gets really interesting. And when I say churning the milk of the Holy Dharma, I know that there have been times when I just haven't understood the reluctance to be clear about judgments and to just, proclaim situations to be right or wrong. But the more I'm reflecting and learning from this particular perspective, there's a sense of righteousness in any form is still righteousness. And it is a narrowing of that open, abiding, compassionate space. And in holding the open, compassionate, stillness, stilling all of that quality of the mind, making layers and layers of conceptuality, layers and layers of judgment, leading to righteousness. In the stillness, that stillness is not inactive. In the stillness, we can see our own behaviors, and we can see what harms we might be causing. And instead of judging, we can skillfully see what is wise and skillful action in this moment. So I have two interesting verses that I'd like to offer to you for contemplation. I'm going to put them in the chat room as well as read them. The first is from I think it's a quote by Guru Rinpoche. There's not an exact attribution. And it's from a lecture of Khandro Rinpoche on the Heart Sutra. To understand the core essence of Buddha Dharma, the only thing asked of you is to give yourself a break. Give yourself a break from thinking you have to do it, see it, achieve it, change it, or bring it to fruition. Give a break to the deep arrogance that assumes this world wouldn't know how to function without you. All the Buddhist teachings and methods come to the single point, just sit still. So that line, the deep arrogance that assumes the world wouldn't know how to function without you, addresses that continuous judging mind. And contrasts it with holding a still mind, whether it is sitting or acting. That presence of the open, luminous, compassionate abiding is active in and of itself, in the sense that we remember when Buddha Shakyamuni was walking while a battle was taking place, and the stillness was so powerful, the battle stopped and the people lay down their arms. And I think that if we really look at the phrase above that, thinking you have to do it, see it, achieve it, change it, bring it into fruition, there is a kind of pushing. And I think that's the difference of what I was describing in His Holiness Drikung Chetsang Rinpoche's spontaneous accomplishment, paying attention to addressing the interdependence of causes, and things arise without that pushing, achieving, forcing, rather by supporting the causes with the intention of benefiting beings, and with skillful action, the beneficial circumstances arise without the forcing, kind of aggressive energy of pushing, making something happen. Okay, and then I'm going to give you another verse. And this is from a teaching poem called Faith in Mind, which is one of the very famous poems in the Zen tradition. And it addresses the core beginning of that judging aspect of making distinctions. Just don't pick and choose. If you cut off all likes or dislikes, everything is clear like space. Make the slightest distinction, and heaven and earth are set apart. If you wish to see the truth, don't think for or against. Likes and dislikes are the mind's disease. Without understanding the deep meaning, you cannot still your thoughts. It is clear like space, nothing missing, nothing extra. If you want something, you cannot see things as they are. Likes and dislikes are the mind's disease. Think about how quickly your mind jumps into activity with any like or dislike. Not only do I like this or dislike this, but you should too. We should all be able to agree that we like or we dislike. The world should conform to my experience of like and dislike. So this is not an easy aspect because we are so caught up in our likes and dislikes and so caught up in our judgments. So again, we're looking at how the mind becomes caught in activity versus abiding in clarity and stillness. We're not saying that this particular action causes harm or this particular action doesn't cause harm. That's a different framework. We're looking at how we think about things and how we create endless mental activity. And similarly, It's not about justice or injustice or responding to justice and injustice. It is how do we carry our minds skillfully, effectively, assisting behaviors that cause no harm and refraining from behaviors that do cause harm. And an easy way to just experience this is to look and see how the mind responds with, but, in this situation I should do this, in this situation I should do this. Don't you agree that, in this situation we should all do this? And understand that that is a mental play. That's an activity of mind. That's your mind going back into its disease of more and more and more activity. It's not about inaction. It's about our minds being able to abide in our own inherent Buddha nature or in our inherent samsaric craziness. Okay, I'd like to give everyone time to think about this, and you can look at the verses that I've put in the chat room. You might select one or the other. And really just start examining how quickly each of us, I can say from my side, how quickly I jump into judging, making distinctions, like, dislikes. And what is it like to immediately see, but that's in the opposite direction of spacious awareness? Which do I really want to choose? Which takes me closer to my goal? Which takes me further away? So let's sit in stillness about 5 or 10 minutes. Well, let's contemplate for 5 minutes. So now let's go back and forth a little bit just to experience how quickly our mind jumps into a level of chaos, and how different it is experientially than the stillness and openness when we're allowing our minds and hearts to become expansive. So, probably each of you has a different trigger. It could be politics, it could be social issues, it could be something going on in your families, but just open that door for a minute into righteousness. Not hard for me to get there. Go right there into the narrative that takes you right there and observe your body and your mind when it's occupied by righteousness. Now let go back into the stillness of meditation. Let's take a good deep breath in and deep breath out. Absolute attention. Now see if you can hold that open space when you open the door to that issue again. So sticking with the same issue, opening the door to the situation that drives you right into righteousness. And instead of going to righteousness, hold that open spaciousness while the circumstances are running through your mind. And then coming back to meditation. So I'll do a dedication prayer and we'll say goodbye to the recorded session and have time for discussion. Bodhicitta, excellent and precious mind, where it is unborn, may it arise. Where it is born, may it not decline, but ever increase higher and higher.